having not traveled around 50 plus countries, all the different kind of experiences that I had, the things that I've seen, the people that I've met, you see patterns, you get perspective, you will think outside the box. You can't think outside the box if you're, metaphorically stuck in the box. And, when I say metaphorically stuck in a box, that could be in a town in the UK, or stuck in the office 9 to 5 in a corporate job. That for me is the box. So you need to get out of that and to think outside of it and get perspective. And, you will come up with new ideas. You will come up with creative thinking. You will notice trends or gaps in the market and things with that travel. So the travel is really important for getting perspective.
Welcome to Storypreneurs. Today, we're joined by Simon Baskerville, co-founder of the Connect Group. Simon has spent the last decade building a global network of ultra-high net worth individuals and hosting exclusive events in key financial hubs. Beyond his professional success, Simon enjoys motorbiking, mountaineering adventures, and sporting activities like Muay Thai and paddle. Join us as we explore his journey of innovation, leadership, and excellence. Let's dive in. Hi, Simon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Seth. Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here. Happy to share my story with you guys and your viewers today.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And ever since I met you in Chiang Mai, we talked so much about, entrepreneurship, business ventures, and I thought I really need to have you on the podcast to share your experience. I think you've got some great stuff going on, and I'm just absolutely fascinated by that. And I'm going to start off with the first question, and really this is about you and it's about your personal journey. So, what led you to co-found the Connect Group and start off by building a network of ultra high net worth individuals?
Yeah. Yeah. Happy to share a little bit about that. There is a bit of a story behind it. So I think back in, it must have been about 2017, I was living in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and I was working for a company called Sonos. And Sonos makes wireless audio equipment. They're a company born out of Santa Barbara, California, and I was in their marketing department in their European headquarters in a little village called Hilversum, which is about 20-minute train journey out of Amsterdam. And I was there for quite a few years, working away, kind of like a corporate job, a good corporate job, though, I would say. And they looked after me very well. They would fly me to California, to their head office, a few times a year. And so it was a great job, but still a corporate job. And unfortunately, after about 4 years, they were making layoffs. And sorry to say that I was one of the people that they kind of offered like a paycheck to, a redundancy package to, and I took the redundancy package after being working there for 4 years. Got tired. I got tired of kind of the corporate life in an office. Whilst my hours are quite flexible, I was still kind of like a corporate office job at the end of the day. Um, and I wanted to go on an adventure. I wanted to kind of explore the world a little bit, and so I decided at that time to take a one-way flight to Thailand. And so I decided, you know what, while I've got some time off work, while I'm in between jobs, I will just go to Thailand and I will just train full time, do something productive, do something healthy. And so kind of while I was in Thailand, I'd recently actually purchased a property in the Netherlands, and I was renting that out on Airbnb, and I was making good money from that. And so I was kind of in Thailand, getting good rental income from my Airbnb apartment, with the option to go back to the Netherlands, get a job, to pay off the mortgage, and then to live in the Netherlands. But after a while, I thought, why didn't I just stay here? It's cheap to live in Thailand. I'm getting, revenue from my apartment in Amsterdam. I don't really have much of a need to return there. So that's kind of how my nomadic journey kind of started, if you like. I had the ability to kind of live in Thailand where it was cheap. I was making some revenue from my apartment in Amsterdam, and I had some time to kind of practice Muay Thai, and think about what I wanted to do. So I had a little bit of freedom at that point. And then shortly after kind of being in southern Thailand practicing Muay Thai, I got bored of that area, and I thought, what, I'll go to the northern Thailand, to a place called Chiang Mai. Actually, funnily enough, where we met. So my kind of nomadic journey and kind of the Connect Group journey started in Chiang Mai. So yeah, I was there, and I was Not doing a great deal, if I'm going to be honest, work-wise at that point. I was just kind of enjoying the free life. And I noticed on Facebook that an old high school friend of mine was in Bangkok. He made a post saying that he was kind of in Bangkok, and I just saw that, and I just messaged him and I said, hey mate, how are you doing? I noticed you're in Bangkok. Why don't you come up to Chiang Mai? I'm here at the moment. It'd be great to see you. It's been so long. We knew each other in high school, maybe 10 years before I'd messaged him. So we'd had 10 years without talking to each other. But I'm always one for keeping in touch with people, nurturing my network where possible. I never had a problem doing that. So he replied and he said, yeah, sure, I'll come up to Chiang Mai and say hello in a couple of weeks. Eventually came up to Chiang Mai. We got talking. He's like, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, I'm not really doing a great deal. I'm looking for something new. He mentioned that he was organizing these events for a wealthy family in Kuwait, a family office, a very wealthy, more than 100 million US dollars assets under management, net worth family, organizing these networking events for them in Dubai, and that he needed help selling tickets to these events for companies that were raising capital. So the kind of business model was invite a lot of wealthy people to an event for networking and peer-to-peer learning, and then on the side, sell kind of tickets to access that event to companies that are raising capital and give them the opportunity to network with these people, and also make presentations about their investment products and things like that. So he said, would you like to help me on the sales front? And I kind of said no to start with. I said, no, I'm not really wanting to get back into like sales. I've got a background in sales, but I wasn't really keen on doing sales work. So I kind of just said no. But anyway, from then we decided that while we're in Chiang Mai, we were going to do a motorbike trip, go on the Mae Hong Song Loop. It's quite a famous motorbike trip in northern Thailand, in the Mae Hong Song area, near Doi Intanon, I believe. Intanon, the highest, tallest mountain in Thailand. And so we decided to go on this kind of multi-day trip, do this loop together. And as we went around, he kind of kept kind of bringing it up and mentioning that, why don't we, well, why aren't you interested? I think it's a good opportunity. And he also kind of said, well, I'm also thinking about perhaps starting my own company and doing my own events as well. Working for this company is one thing, but also, I could do my own events, and maybe you could get involved in doing our own smaller events as well. And that piqued my interest because ever since I've been a young boy, I've always wanted to kind of be my own boss, have my own business. And up until this point, I hadn't really done that properly. I hadn't gone on that journey. So as soon as he mentioned that, I thought, that could be something of interest. And so one thing kind of led to another. And he eventually convinced me to start working together with him for this wealthy family in Kuwait, helping them first to learn the ropes with an ultimate goal to go off and do our own thing a little bit later down the line. And that's exactly what happened. So the rest is history. And that's kind of how it all started.
It's funny that you mentioned, leaving the corporate world, then starting your own thing, because it's literally just happened exactly like me. I was working for the London Stock Exchange in London. It was about after 4 years they were doing sort of mass redundancies, and I kind of raised my hand because I was just getting bored of that corporate life. And they offered a really good paycheck. I took it. I started my own thing. I went to Thailand as well. I feel like there's and everyone starts in Chiang Mai. I don't know if you've noticed this. I feel like it's like this trend of people just leaving the West and just going to Thailand or Bali and then doing their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an oversight of the numbers. I like to think, or I think that I was a bit of an OG nomad. So when I was doing it, when I was traveling and working, it was a very small thing. And I think I mentioned to you before, as cheesy as it is, there was that book that everybody knows, The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. It's kind of like the Holy Grail, the Bible of nomadism. And I read that book. After I read that book, it kind of opened my mind to this completely new way of thinking and doing things. So I think, these days, I notice more and more younger people coming through, meeting younger people that want this kind of life. They want this freedom. But that might just be because I'm here at the epicenter of it, obviously living in Bali now, but also spend a lot of time in Thailand. I'm always going to be around these types of people. So yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a freedom thing, and obviously with the pandemic, employers are realizing that you don't need to have an office, you don't need to hire from a 60-kilometer radius from your office. You could, if you're smart enough, you can hire from anyone that's got an internet connection, and that should be good for your business. lowering the fixed costs, increasing the potential talent pool. So yeah, there's this kind of shift in mentality after the pandemic, which me and you were probably well aware of before. But I think, we're starting to get an employer mentality shift. We're starting to see more technology, which allows us to work remotely. And that all kind of makes sense that now there's more people doing it.
What would you say to someone who right now is a digital nomad and they're thinking about, okay, I'm doing this part-time job, I want to start my own thing, because there's a lot of things that we've seen. I mean, we've seen that in the digital nomad summit, right? You and I talked about that. There's a lot of sort of freelancers or people who have a remote job and they're looking to start their own thing, not necessarily like entrepreneurs as such. What would you say to, those people who are looking to start something and then make it into a real business? What advice could you give them?
There's a clear distinction in my mind between, a freelancer and a remote business owner. Do you have a team of staff that you're managing and scaling? If not, then it's probably not. You're probably not more like a remote business owner, and more like a freelancer.
If someone is looking to go into that, because you yourself as a remote business owner, what could someone expect going into that field to understand whether that's something right for them or whether they just want to be a freelancer and just do their traveling and do a bit of work on the side?
If you're looking for 2 hours in the office a day, 1 hour in the office a day, and the rest of the time running activities and exploring the world, then it's not for you. Owning a business, whether with a sizable remote team, it's probably not for you. And it depends how ambitious you are. So yeah, a freelancer would be great if they just want a few hours a day, or to be able to have complete control over the amount of hours they work and the amount of money they make. But if you're more entrepreneurial, then I think the business could maybe make sense for you. But I think you need to be prepared that if you're going to be moving around, traveling, exploring, that building a business while doing that is not an easy thing to do. And so you just need to prepare to probably sacrifice a lot of the fun that you might be having when you're moving around, and seeing things, and going on adventures and doing these whatever interests you might have. You need to be well aware that you're probably going to have to sacrifice that. And in many ways, it could be more difficult to scale and manage your team remotely than doing it physically. So be aware of those complications.
What were some of the things that you were going through, and how come you decided to have your base in Bali, and what was the process like?
And so I was, basically a freelancer for the first year or two, getting this off the ground. And that went really well. So, as a freelancer, working with my friend with this company, we were bringing in a lot of business for them. And I was applying a lot of the things that I'd learned, reading the 4 Hour Work Week, bringing in virtual assistants, using various pieces of technology to kind of outsource a lot of the manual work, because there's a lot of arduous manual work in general sales work. So if you can just remove that and focus on the good stuff, then, you're going to be doing well. So I did that. And then it wasn't long before we kind of decided, look, we're we're doing so well working for this company. Why don't we just do it ourselves? We can almost do it ourselves anyway. Their involvement in the events was limited, and we just felt that we could do this on our own, and that it was time to make that leap. So I think it was the reason we kind of went on that journey was due to the success we were having. We were a bit younger then, very ambitious, confident, cocky. Let's go and do it ourselves. And that was kind of why we made that leap and into kind of organizing ourselves. And we started off small, doing these small breakfasts and lunches in Hong Kong and Singapore for our Asia network of family offices. Asia is a booming market for ultra high net worth individuals. In Singapore, we have more ultra high net worth families operating out of there, more and more every day. Thousands and thousands of them. So it's a hotbed for wealth and capital, and so is Hong Kong. And so we started organizing small events in those regions, and then slowly those events grew. And then, we copy pasted the way that we were organizing the events in Hong Kong and Singapore into Switzerland and Montreux, in London, Dubai. And hopefully this year we'll be launching our Americas edition of the event. So we'll be doing something in the Grand Cayman or Miami or something like that. So it was a gradual, slow process, a lot of confidence, some blind ignorance, I suppose, which is actually a trait I see in a lot of entrepreneurs, a little bit ignorant to the challenges and going into things blindly. So yeah, a combination of kind of those emotions and that thought process, I think.
So obviously the Connect group, you guys build events physically. What was that like during COVID?
Yeah, so that was the toughest time for us, and probably me mentally and physically I've ever had in my life. I think Apart from base camp, going to base camp in Everest, and a few physical things that have been quite challenging. I think, the pandemic was tough, but not only for me, but for everybody. We were building this events company, physical events, slowly but surely, and then the pandemic comes along and all events are off the cards. We had to cancel one that was coming up in Hong Kong. We had deposits on the line, large hotel deposits, and being a relatively small business, cash flow is always going to be a little bit of a challenge for us. So that was really tough. And then we got this kind of unknown period of being unable to do events. And yeah, obviously we can't do them, so it was really tough. We had a team to support. I think we had something like ten people to look after. We don't want to let them all go, so we're doing everything we can to kind of keep them on board. So we had to make a pivot, and we tried to do the events virtually. So we yeah, started doing kind of online virtual events, and I think that was a bit of a thing during the pandemic. It wasn't only us doing that in the wealth sector, in the finance sector, which our events are, but other sectors, other industries were also doing similar things. So we started doing those, and we did a few of those, and they were okay. But really, if you're trying to raise tens, hundreds of millions of dollars from an investor, from a private investor, they want to meet you. It's so important to get that personal touch, that personal connection with what we do. And obviously, during the network, what we were doing virtually, it just wasn't possible to have anyone do it physically. So it was always going to be a struggle. So we did our best, and we did a few events, but it wasn't really that good. And companies did struggle to make meaningful connections with our network. But we did adopt some technologies during the time. So we adopted a new one-to-one meeting platform. So we have a third party that comes in and provides us with this kind of web and mobile application, which makes it nice and easy for people to connect with wealthy investors, wealthy family offices before the event, during the event, and after the event. And so we took that piece of technology and we still apply that to our events today after the pandemic. And so we had to make some adjustments. We had to dig deep, enhance the product that we have, the service that we have during the pandemic. And then we kind of kept the best bits for when we came out of the pandemic. And we still apply that today. So, I feel like it made us a bit more resilient as a business, toughened us up, and we managed to take some positives out of the whole thing at the end of the day, which was also nice. But yeah, not much fun. I don't really want to see another pandemic anytime soon.
This must have been a very challenging time for you, and I'm just curious to know what was the driving force behind that? What was that core value or philosophy that you have that kind of drives you both in the business and as well in your personal life?
Sure. So I think the driving force between us wanting to keep things together during the pandemic. So it was our baby. At the end of the day, you've built a business. It's your baby. You can see it growing. We know that it's working. It's got potential. It's not a tough cookie to crack, this market. These things aren't that easy to pull together. So it's a proven concept. It works. You've already put, thousands and thousands of hours of your time into it. You've built a team. You're learning. You're growing. Everybody is. And then the pandemic comes along and it's putting it all into jeopardy. But in the back of your mind, you know that you've got a business that works, which is growing, and you'd be very, very sorry to let that go. So I think it's just that kind of belief that that validation that we've already had, that the business working. And also, I'm a highly competitive person. I don't like to lose. I hate losing. I really notice that when I'm playing paddle, or when I'm on the Muay Thai ring and someone's beating me up. So I hate to lose. It's almost to a toxic point, and that's always in the back of my mind. I don't want to fail. So I'm not really ready just to let things go so easily. So we had to fight for it. We had to fight hard. We had to put some additional hours in. We had to think strategically. So yeah, a combination of those values, I suppose.
How do you manage to, you know, do all these extreme sports and do Muay Thai and do paddle all along the side and, manage such a growing company?
So a lot of planning. You need to plan things more. It comes down to a lot of planning. I think a lot of what we do is planning. And I think also these days, when I was on the start of my journey, nomading around as a freelancer, it was much easier to go on more adventures, pick up more hobbies, travel around more, because you can't really be productive and build a big business while you're moving around. I'm sorry to say. So if that's really your objective as an entrepreneur, you're like, I want to build a big business. and I want to travel around. It doesn't really go hand in hand. What is good is maybe taking, a year out or 2 years out as a freelancer, working a little bit on the side, and then going to, do some extensive exploring because you can't really do that when you've got a job. I think in the UK we get 25 days of holiday. What are you going to see in 25 days? Nothing. So if you really value exploration and you want to see the world that's out there, then maybe taking a year or two off, reducing your work hours as a freelancer or something, or automating your business in a way. I do know some business owners that have like online businesses. They're running a website. They've got a team of VAs. They've automated everything, so they don't have much involvement in it. But that will take a lot of planning and things. Yeah, a lot of plannings and things to get to achieve that. So it's possible if you're an automation king with a small business that's really well ironed out. But for us, it's not really that. It's not easy to do for us. It's much more challenging. Um, so yeah, I mean, so how do I manage it? Just through a lot of planning. And I think, before while I was doing more freelancing and the business was smaller, I had more time. But then every now and then you're planning like, okay, I'm gonna go to Bali, I'm gonna spend 3 to 6 months, I'm gonna get a villa, I'm gonna just lock down and I'm not gonna go anywhere. But then the 6 months after that, once I've done all my work, I'll do a bit more exploring. So you kind of block off a few months to kind of get your head down and then get up and move around again as you please. But I think, as the years go on, I think I've been location independent for 7 years now. I don't move around quite as much as I used to, and it's much more business related moving around now as we explore starting new business ventures in different markets and things like that. So my travel now is more business orientated just for the time being, and I don't do as much adventure stuff if you like. But I do have a goal this year to go on one epic adventure. So I've kind of built that in, and I might do like some cross country motorbike trip or something like that. But I'm probably talking on this a little bit too much now, but yeah, I think just essentially it comes down to a bit of planning. And for anyone watching that's interested in this kind of lifestyle, if you are looking to build a large business, then you probably won't really be able to do that while you're moving around so much, unless you're like an automation expert like Seth.
Thanks, Simon. I mean, I definitely had my challenges as well. I mean, when I had to do my business, I had a base and I was working around the clock to create systems and processes and automations in order to, alleviate a lot of that time. A lot of people don't realize that, they see me on Instagram and they see all these things that I'm traveling all the time, but behind this, I've got a team of professionals working. I have my systems and processes, I have automation processes in place that keep me going. So it's not that easy. But I do have to say, I mean, I do struggle with growing the business because of that lack of time, because I keep traveling as well. So I would say mine is more of a lifestyle business than a serious driving business machine. But I can't complain.
Yeah, true. I mean, that's a good point, and maybe you can come and help us streamline our processes at some point as well. But I've also got friends that are actually having a conversation with a newer friend, a nomad. He's a multimillionaire, self-made multimillionaire running an online business. He wants to grow his business, but he says he won't do it while he's moving around. He'll wait until he's got 6 months in one place. It's the headspace as well. You might have a few hours in the day, but you need to get perspective. You need to have headspace as well. So there's a few things that you need to kind of have a clear mind for in order to kind of make these crafty decisions because you got to work smart and hard to make it. So just a few
Exactly.
things there.
Exactly. A lot of people don't realize, and exactly what you said, it is that headspace. A lot of people don't realize that when you are traveling, the day to day is what drains you, what kills you, because you have to make those decisions, what to eat and, where you go and do your laundry and things like that, that take that decision making capacity that you would otherwise include in your business. Whereas when you have a base and you've got everything sorted for yourself, right? And that usually, for me, it takes me a couple of weeks. But that is only because I've done my research, I'm ingrained into the communities beforehand, and I know what's happening, and I know how to, make my life in order to be this productive. But what a lot of people don't realize is the mentality or the mental strength it takes you to settle in a new place and for you to make yourself feel comfortable in order to be productive. And that in itself drains you. a lot. And you know, maybe for me, if I had stayed in a place long enough, then my situation would be different. But then again, I do choose that nomadic lifestyle, and that exploration because I'm a adventure geek as well.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree with you. Yeah, you say it very well. And the way you describe it is important. It's that decision making power, let's say, for one of a better word, which you need to kind of conserve. And when when I was working in a more corporate job, there was always someone to answer the bigger questions. The bigger, more strategic questions. There's someone else making those for you, and you're just asking for direction. But when it's your own thing, you've got to make decisions about things that you have no experience with, and that will continue to happen again and again and again as the business grows. You'll have a new set of challenges. You'll have no experience with it. You won't know the answer, and you just need to kind of dig back into that logical reasoning time and time again. And it's incredibly tiring. So when you've also got that to do, and you've got to figure out where to go for breakfast, and you've got to find out where to get your laundry done, and all these other things, it's tough. So it makes it much more difficult. So yeah, lock down, find a place, get a routine together.
I would be curious, Simon, to understand a little bit about, how you make decisions, how you create your priorities as well. You've had a lot of success with building events for ultra high net worth individuals, so I can imagine you've been faced with some really tough decisions over the years.
Well, I think it's probably important if you want to make good decisions to have a good set of quality goals in place for the business, longer term, medium, and short term if you can. And then you've got kind of a benchmark to play against. If your goal is XYZ, and then you've got these smaller decisions, say, does it work towards that goal? And it reminds me actually of a presentation I once went to, with an Olympic rower, a very famous Olympic rower, and I've actually forgotten his name now. But the most famous Olympic rower in UK history. So they trained for 4 years to try to win a gold medal, right? So 4 years, every day, they're working that every day to try and win the gold medal in the Olympics. That's their goal. And so, if the race is 3 years ago, and you've got every day, you've got this kind of goal, it's quite a challenging thing mentally to remain motivated. And I just remember he said, everything he did every single day for 4 years, he said, will this make the boat go faster? So he wakes up in the morning, he's eating breakfast, shall I have eggs on toast or salmon and eggs? Will this make the boat go faster? Which one will make the boat go faster? And that's what he said, asked himself every day for 4 years before the race. And so I guess, having that clear goal and then asking yourself, does your smallest decisions align with that clear goal? That's the only real way that you can kind of make quality decisions, but through that goal setting.
So having a
Um,
North Star, essentially.
yeah, exactly right. So goal setting, getting comfortable with that, and then allowing yourself to kind of make the small decisions play into that. It's the only way to do it, really. So I guess that's kind of my mindset around decision making. Um, and also organizing things in priority. So yeah, I've got a Notion here, which I'm just literally glancing at. It's got a long list of things that I need to do, with priorities around them and things like that. So just organizing what needs to be done and when, and goal setting is kind of like how I do it. And I also do that personally and in the business. So I have my own personal goals and my business goals, and some things I decide to do play into both of those things, which is great. My business will sponsor a few paddle tournaments in Bali. It'd be great for the business if we can be on the winners podium. And then at the same time, I've got a goal here to get on the podium at a paddle tournament, right? So that both of those, sponsoring the paddle tournament and doing well in it kind of plays into both of those goals. So yeah, primarily it's around goal setting. That's kind of how I think about that.
You actually answered my next question, which was how does sports like Muay Thai or paddle play into your life and contribute to that leadership and innovation element? And I think you just answered that with the sponsorship.
Definitely, right? Yeah. So I think you can't do business, and I can't stare at a computer screen all the time. I want to get out there and do things. I love sports and competition. I'm very competitive, always have been. So organizing the paddle and getting the Muay Thai is my latest kind of fixes, if you like. So I'm kind of getting into those. And for me, one-on-one with a trainer for 60 minutes in a Muay Thai ring is basically like meditation. It's my form of meditation. At that point, I'm not thinking about anything else. I can really clear my mind. I'm not thinking about the business or any other problems that we've got or managing the team. I can't. I'm just thinking about trying to hit this combo as sweet as I can with the trainer. So I think, it's important to have that break, that release from the work, get away from the computer screen, and clear your head in whichever way that suits you. Meditation, for example, is something that I really struggle with. So sitting there for 10 minutes, not doing anything, or even longer than that, is very difficult for me. So I consider the sports to be my kind of form of meditation where I clear my mind and I don't think about anything else. So they kind of play together a little bit like that, I suppose.
I'm absolutely the same. And before I realized I was doing this wrong because, when I was, locked in my room working on my business, I was burning out and I realized that something was wrong. And then obviously that depletes your productivity and your decision making prowess. And I think after a while, I realized that I needed to have that headspace, be it, for some people, meditation. In my case, it's certainly sports. I play beach volleyball a lot. And for me, that is a great way to kind of, exercise all your demons, if you like, to get you back into the swing of things. And actually, sports for me is an essential part, I would say, sports and travel in building my business. And it really, yeah, it really kind of alleviates that pressure and makes room for more productivity as well.
Yeah, I think it's also a good point there you make on the travel, because I think mostly what I've mentioned is that travel isn't necessarily great for building a business, but I just want to make it clear that there are some obviously good things with it. And when you travel around and you see different cultures, different people, different places all the time, it gives you perspective which you could never have otherwise. So I don't think I would be here today with a business like I have now. And I know we've still got a long way to go. I'm not saying I completely made it, but we're on the right track. Having not traveled around 50 plus countries, all the different kind of experiences that I had, the things that I've seen, the people that I've met, you see patterns, you get perspective, you will think outside the box. You can't think outside the box if you're, metaphorically stuck in the box. And when I say metaphorically stuck in a box, that could be in a town in the UK, or stuck in the office 9 to 5 in a corporate job. That for me is a box. So you need to get out of that and to think outside of it and get perspective. And you will come up with new ideas. You will come up with creative thinking. You will notice trends or gaps in the market and things with that travel. So the travel is really important for getting perspective and seeing things differently. And obviously, you meet people and they say things, and that could trigger something else. And you meet people from a completely different background who grew up completely differently, who probably consume different media, and they might have a different perspective to people that are back in your hometown. So whilst I've kind of mentioned that travel is not necessarily the best thing for your business, but there are obviously some benefits here too, and you just kind of touched upon that. So I wanted to just re-emphasize the importance in that and getting perspective.
How can entrepreneurs find that balance between building the business and having a nomadic lifestyle?
You just got to give it a shot and see what works for you. See what balance make is suitable for you. How to find that balance? Just through experience, I suppose. Yeah, learning through doing. I think the only way, yeah, you'll ever really know is if you've kind of experienced it. Are you happy? I think asking yourself, am I really happy right now? Am I enjoying this? Be honest with yourself. If you're not, then you haven't got the balance right, and you have to reevaluate. But that's a really hard question to ask yourself sometimes. Am I really happy? Am I really enjoying this? Is this really what I want? So doing a little bit of work around that could also, be useful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, it took me 4 years to find that balance. I think, I've never really asked myself that question until I started to, and then started finding that. So it's definitely a journey, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, I don't think I would say that I've been like 100% like happy the last 7 years going through, all the travel and things, but the experience is excellent. Sometimes you might have to go through an unhappy patch, to get the business through or to make things work. So you can't wake up and go, "Oh, I didn't really enjoy yesterday. I'm going to throw it all in the trash can." So also being, realistic about, is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Are you going in the right direction? Someone once recently told me, actually, happiness is either knowing what you want and having that, or knowing what you want and being on the path to getting that. And if you're not doing those two things, then you won't really be happy. It's quite simple. So it's a new one I heard, and I quite liked it. So I thought I'd just share that with you. But there's yeah, that's kind of something interesting to ponder on.
Thank you so much, Simon, for your time, for your knowledge, for your insights. I definitely learned a lot just by speaking to you. It was a pleasure to have you on here. Is there any closing remarks or any advice out there to entrepreneurs or business owners that you'd like to mention before we give this to a close?
If anyone wants to kind of reach out or learn a bit more about me, you can follow me on Instagram, thereal.baskerville. Got a few insights into how I manage myself, what I'm up to. If anyone needs any advice on what to do or something like that, then please reach out to me. But I think we covered quite a few bases there today, Seth. So thanks again for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure as well. And I'll make sure to put the links below to so people can connect with you in the comments. So
Incredible. Thank you very much.